Inflation.
Not only are they inflating prices, but they're making the boxes smaller.
It's the big bad word we've been hearing about over and over again. We are all over it by now. And yet, it is still seeping into daily conversations and overtaking the content on your feed. It what must not be named inflation. But instead of dwelling on the bad or speculating about the future, today we're going to take a positive spin on it by going through the 5 tips on how you can navigate and use inflation to your advantage. This is Rich Girl's Guide, where we demystify the world of personal finance to help you make better informed financial decisions. I'm Kirby, a former 9-to-5-er in wealth management, and today we are going to discuss the top 5 things you have to do in order to navigate inflation. First up should be no surprise to anyone. Budgeting. I know that we all know that we should be budgeting, but how many of us actually are budgeting? According to NerdWallet, 74% of Americans have a monthly budget. And while it's great to have a budget, that is just the first step in the budgeting process. Unless you are actively following your income versus expenses, keeping track of every single purchase, either with an app or manually on a spreadsheet, having a budget is honestly pretty useless. Sure, you wrote down how much you should be spending on groceries or entertainment, but many Americans severely underestimate how much they actually spend every day and every month. Take the time to craft a detailed budget or update your current budget, and then make a game plan as to how you are going to hold yourself accountable. Maybe you and a friend text each other every Friday morning to remind each other to go through your weekly spending and update the remaining monthly budget accordingly. Maybe it means setting a reminder for yourself to check your app every few days. Or maybe you make it part of your daily morning routine to check your budgeting app so that it becomes second nature and only takes a few minutes since you are doing it every single day. If you need any help figuring out how to actually create a budget, check out episode 10, Let's Build a Budget You Will Actually Follow. I also have a little freebie budgeting PDF that you can download. I'll include links to both of those in the description below. Real quick, I just wanted to pop in and say a huge thank you for listening to today's episode. If you could rate and review this podcast wherever you are listening right now and hit subscribe on YouTube, you will be doing me a huge favor, and it's absolutely free to you. Thanks so much. Let's get back to the show. Tip number 2. When inflation is high yield savings accounts typically give you the best interest rate, and you should take advantage of that great rate while you can. When you sign up for a savings account that pays interest, 99.9% of the time, that interest rate is going to fluctuate. When inflation is high, mortgage rates are high, the Fed rate is high, you are usually going to receive a higher interest rate from your bank. But not all savings accounts are created equal. Last year, I actually closed out my old savings account that was held at the same bank as my everyday checking account. They were paying me something like 0.2% interest and then charging all kinds of fees for transfers or if my balance dipped below a certain level. I was over it. I ended up opening a high yield savings account with Ally Bank a few months prior and experienced 0 maintenance fees. I did not have any transfer fees, and I was getting paid 4.2% interest on my money. I literally held the exact same amount of money in each savings account, so one in the high yield savings and one in the brick and mortar savings, and I was getting paid significantly more by Ally Bank while having to pay the other bank more than I was actually making in interest. So after a few months of that, I decided to just transfer all of my savings into the high yield savings account and then close out my old savings account. And I have never looked back. We've made hundreds, if not thousands of dollars off our savings in the high yield savings account since then. And I have only good things to say about our experience. Of course, you do need to remember that the rate will fluctuate. If inflation starts to go down, rates start to go down, your interest rate is most likely going to decrease. But there's no reason not to take advantage of these higher rates now while you still can. Tip number 3. Cut down on your grocery bill by planning ahead and buying in bulk when possible. When my family started to heavily rely on Costco for our staple groceries and home items, think like toilet paper, paper towels, that was when I really saw our grocery bill decrease drastically. Instead of stopping by Wegmans multiple times a week to grab 2 pre-marinated chicken breasts for $10, I would go buy a pack of 12 chicken breasts for $24 from Costco, and then just grab a big bottle of marinade for a few dollars and pack up our freezer with chicken for pretty much the entire month. I also found that I was a lot more mindful about looking for the Kirkland label, which is the Costco brand that is typically a lot less expensive than the name brand items. Not to mention, it's a lot harder to justify buying sweets or something that we didn't need, because instead of purchasing a small tub of cookies or a little loaf of banana bread from the grocery store, I would have to commit to a giant package of oversized croissants. Which, I'm not gonna lie, has definitely happened a time or two. But for the most part, this has really helped us out on buying more than we intended to. This is also a great hack for parents. Everything that goes into our girls' lunchboxes comes from Costco, and it makes making lunches in the morning so much easier. Bread, deli meat, and sliced cheese for sandwiches. I'll pick out 2 to 3 different kinds of nut-free snack packs that the girls then get to choose from, which helps ensure that they will actually eat it. I also get these adorable little yogurt smoothies that are actually pretty healthy and then also double as a drink for them. And just depending on the season, I try to sneak in some fruit, whether it's grapes, strawberries, apples. Honestly, whatever is a good price that I know they will actually eat. Planning out some meals and your list ahead of time is so important when trying to cut back on your grocery bill. I promise you do not have to live off of rice and beans in order to decrease that grocery bill. You can still get really nutritious, really delicious food as long as you plan accordingly and stick to your grocery budget. Okay, switching gears here a bit for tip number 4. Don't stop investing or saving for retirement. A big thing I used to see when I worked in wealth management was someone would get spooked because the market was down for a few days, or a news article came out that inflation was going up and employment's going up, and basically they would just get nervous. And once they got nervous, they would give me a call and wanted to stop putting money away into their investments. Unless there's a legitimate reason for this, like you lost your job and you don't have the extra money, or you feel as though your investments accounts are fully funded, you should never ever stop investing just because the economy isn't doing well or you think that the market is down. In fact, the exact opposite is true. If the stock market is down, that is precisely the time that you do want to invest. Now, changing around your investments within your accounts might be prudent depending on your goals and your time horizon, aka how long until you need to access those funds. But stopping contributions altogether is something that should not be done without a legitimate financial reason for doing so. Bonus tip, your monthly investments to your retirement accounts, investment accounts, and or your emergency fund should be included in your monthly budget. Finally, tip number 5. Set up automatic payments on anything that could cost you money in late fees. Now, I have to admit something to you guys. This took me a long time to come around to. For some reason, I have never been a big fan of automatic payments. Now, I think this originated from a number of different reasons, First, I never want to be surprised when I check my bank statement or look at my checking account and see a huge automatic payment that I wasn't expecting. And I also don't want to forget about a subscription or an automatic payment until months or even years later. Having said that, I think these two things can be avoided somewhat easily. First, you should account for every single ongoing purchase in your monthly budget. For example, I have separate line items for Spotify, Disney Plus, Peloton. I don't have just one large subscription category because I want to see each and every subscription that we have. Now, these kinds of subscriptions are almost always never going to vary in their monthly or annual payments. I am more so talking about your credit card bill or your HOA fees. These kinds of things can and will vary month to month. And if you do not have enough cash in your checking account to cover the automatic payment, you will get smacked with late fees from both your bank and the company you were trying to pay. So, how do we avoid these while still having automatic payments set up? I like to make myself a reminder, typically about 5 days before a payment is due, to check how much it is going to be charged. This is pretty easy for me because most of my automatic payments are set to pay on the first of the month. So usually around the 25th of the month, I will log into everything, check the balances due, and then move on with my day. This has allowed me to avoid paying late fees because I absolutely used to pay late fees when I would forget to manually pay the bills on the first, even if I had all of the money sitting in my checking account. It also gives me an opportunity to see if anything is going to be more than I expected and gives me time to deposit more money into my checking account to cover the difference. Since our checking account does not pay any interest, I don't usually like to keep a ton of cash in there. I keep most of it in our high yield savings account to earn the interest. But this could also be avoided by keeping a baseline amount in your checking to cover those unexpected expenses. Okay, those are my top 5 tips for navigating inflation. And these are all things that we do in our family. Inflation is no joke, and it is something we have to deal with as adults living in the real world. So being prepared and switching up some of our financial routine is small potatoes if it means we can put food on the table and keep a roof over our head. I'd love to hear what you guys have done or what tips you will be using. I will catch you next Monday for a brand new episode. Till then, have a wonderful week. Later, rich girls.